Captain Jake Morrison stared out the window of his ship as they got closer to the huge space station. The Nexus was bigger than anything humans had ever built. It looked like a giant metal city floating in space, with lights that twinkled like stars. This was the center of the Galactic Confederation, where the most powerful alien races in the galaxy made their decisions. Jake felt nervous but tried not to show it. Today was the most important day in human history. Earth was asking to join the galaxy's biggest club, and Jake was leading the team that would make the request. "Captain, we'll be docking in 10 minutes, said Commander Ryan Walsh from his seat nearby. Ryan was a tough military man who had fought in Earth's last war. His job was to show the aliens that humans could be strong when needed. Dr. Lisa Bennett looked up from her tablet where she had been reading notes about alien biology. She was Earth's best expert on alien life forms. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a neat style, and her blue eyes showed both excitement and worry. "I hope they'll listen to what we have to say about human science," she said quietly. Ambassador Helen Clark sat in the front of the ship, going over her speech one more time. She was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She had spent her whole life learning how to talk to different kinds of people, and now she would use those skills to talk to different kinds of aliens. "Remember, we're not just representing Earth today. We're representing all of humanity's hopes for the future," she told the team. The ship docked with a soft bump. Jake could hear the sounds of the station's systems connecting to their ship. Soon they would breathe alien air and walk on alien floors. The thought made his heart beat faster. They walked through a long hallway made of strange metal that seemed to glow with its own light. Other beings moved past them in the corridor. Jake saw tall, thin creatures that looked like they were made of mist and light. These were the Zephyrians, who could exist in 2 different dimensions at the same time. He also saw beings that looked like walking crystals, their bodies reflecting rainbow colors as they moved. These were the Vorthon, known throughout the galaxy for their perfect logic and incredible computers. The council chamber was enormous. It had 12 seats arranged in a circle, each one designed for a different type of alien body. In the center was a small platform where humans were supposed to stand and make their case. The aliens began to take their seats. The Zephyrians floated, rather than sat, their misty forms shifting between solid and transparent. The Vorthon clicked into their seats with sounds like breaking glass. The Aquilans, who looked like giant fish with arms and legs, settled into seats filled with water. Other aliens filled the remaining seats. Some Jake recognized from the files he had studied. Others were completely new to him. High Counselor Zethkar of the Vorthon spoke first. His voice sounded like wind chimes mixed with computer sounds. "Humans from the planet Earth, you have requested membership in the Galactic Confederation. State your case." Ambassador Clark stepped forward. She had practiced this speech 100 times, but standing in front of these powerful aliens made her feel very small. "Honored members of the Council, humanity comes before you with respect and hope. We offer our skills, our knowledge, and our friendship to the galaxy." She began to list human achievements. She talked about how humans had learned to fly, even though they had no wings. She explained how they had built cities under the ocean and on top of mountains. She described human art, music, and literature. She showed them pictures of Earth's many different cultures and peoples. "Humans are adaptable," she said. "We can live in hot places and cold places. We can solve problems in many different ways. We learn quickly, and we never give up when things get hard." Dr. Bennett stepped forward. Next, she showed the aliens examples of human science and medicine. She explained how humans had learned to cure diseases and extend life. She talked about human space travel and the colonies they had built on Mars and the Moon. Commander Walsh was last. He spoke about human courage and the willingness to help others. He explained that while humans had fought wars in the past, they had also learned to work together. He showed examples of humans risking their lives to save others, even strangers from different countries. When the presentations were finished, the chamber fell silent. The aliens looked at each other in ways that humans couldn't understand. Some seemed to communicate without making sounds. Others flashed lights or changed colors. Finally, High Counselor Zethkar stood up. His crystal body caught the light and threw rainbows across the chamber walls. "The council has made its decision," he announced. Jake held his breath. This was the moment everything had been building toward. "Humanity is denied membership in the Galactic Confederation," Zethkar continued. His words hit the human delegation like a physical blow. "Your species is primitively aggressive, your technology is inferior, your evolution is unstable. Ambassador," Clark felt her heart sink, but she kept her face calm. "May we ask what we could do to change your decision?" Another alien spoke up. This one looked like a tree with many arms and eyes scattered across its bark-like skin. "Your species fights wars among yourselves. You destroy your own planet's environment. You make decisions based on emotions rather than logic. These traits make you unsuitable for galactic civilization." A third alien, this one covered in what looked like fish scales but with wings instead of fins, added, "Your rapid technological advancement without corresponding wisdom development is concerning. Young species often destroy themselves within a few centuries of discovering space travel." Zethkar raised one of his crystal arms. "The decision is final and unanimous. Humanity will remain within its current territory. You may not establish colonies beyond your current sphere of influence. You may reapply for membership in 500 Earth years, assuming your species survives." The words felt like a death sentence. 500 years was longer than most human governments had existed. It was longer than humans had been exploring space. "However," Zethkar continued, "this is not intended as punishment but as protection. Young species need time to mature. Use this time wisely." The meeting was over. The aliens began to leave the chamber, some disappearing in flashes of light, others walking out through doors that opened in the walls. Soon the humans were alone on the platform. Jake looked at his team. Ambassador Clark's shoulders were slumped in defeat. Dr. Bennett was staring at the floor. Commander Walsh was clenching his fists, his face red with anger. "What do we tell Earth?" Ryan asked quietly. Jake took a deep breath. "We tell them the truth. We tell them that we're on our own out here." As they walked back to their ship, Jake couldn't help but feel that the aliens had made a mistake. They had looked at humanity's past and present, but they hadn't considered what humans might become when they were truly challenged. The aliens thought they were protecting a young species, but Jake suspected they had just created something much more dangerous than they realized. The journey back to Earth would take 3 weeks. That would be 3 weeks to figure out how to tell 7 billion people that their dreams of joining the galactic community had been crushed. But it would also be 3 weeks to think about what humans would do next. Jake had a feeling that the galaxy would be hearing from humanity again much sooner than 500 years. The news hit Earth like a thunderbolt. Captain Jake Morrison stood in front of the United Nations building in New York. Cameras from every news station in the world pointed at him. Behind him, the flags of all Earth's nations fluttered in the wind. His words would be heard by every person on the planet. "The Galactic Council has rejected humanity's request for membership," Jake said, his voice steady despite the crushing disappointment he felt inside. "They believe we are too primitive, too aggressive, and too unstable to join their confederation." The crowd that had gathered in the street below began to murmur. Some people looked angry, others seemed sad, and many just looked confused. For months, everyone had been excited about the possibility of joining the galactic community. Now that dream was shattered. But not everyone was ready to give up. 6 months later, President Maria Santos stood at the podium in Geneva, Switzerland. The World Unity Congress had brought together leaders from every nation on Earth. Maria was a strong woman with dark hair and fierce eyes. She had been born in a small village in Mexico and had worked her way up to become the most powerful person on the planet. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the large hall. "The aliens think we are not good enough for their club. They think we are too wild, too dangerous, too unpredictable. Well, I say this to them. We don't need their permission to reach for the stars." The crowd erupted in cheers. People stood up and clapped until their hands hurt. Maria waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "Today, I announce the Stellar Independence Initiative. We will build our own path to the stars. We will create our own colonies, our own trade routes, our own civilization among the stars, and we will do it our way. The human way. Dr. Alex Carter was watching the speech from his laboratory in California. Alex was a thin man with messy brown hair and glasses that were always sliding down his nose. He was Earth's smartest scientist when it came to space travel and alien technology. While Maria spoke about humanity's future, Alex was already working on making that future possible. "Computer, show me the analysis of the alien hull fragments," Alex said to the artificial intelligence that helped him with his research. On the screen in front of him, detailed pictures appeared of small pieces of metal that had been collected from alien ships. These pieces were all that humans had been able to study of advanced alien technology. But Alex was determined to learn everything he could from them. The quantum patterns in the metal suggest they use something called entanglement folding for faster-than-light travel, Alex muttered to himself as he studied the data. "If we can figure out how to copy this." 3 floors below Alex's lab, General Sam Rodriguez was meeting with his top officers. Sam was a big man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his younger days as a soldier. He had fought in the last war between Earth's nations, and now he was preparing for something much bigger. "The aliens told us to stay in our corner of the galaxy," Sam said, looking at the maps of nearby star systems spread across the table. "But they didn't say anything about making that corner bigger." "How big are we talking, General?" asked Colonel Betty Price, a smart woman who had been Sam's second-in-command for 10 years. "Every star system within 50 light-years of Earth," Sam replied. "We're going to build the strongest defense force this galaxy has ever seen. Not to attack anyone, but to make sure nobody ever tells humanity what we can and cannot do again." Meanwhile, in Detroit, Michigan, engineer Kate Thompson was working on something that would change everything. Kate was a practical woman who had grown up fixing cars with her father. Now she was designing spaceships that could carry thousands of people to new worlds. "The aliens build their ships to be perfect," Kate explained to her team of engineers. "But perfect means they can't be changed. Our ships will be different. They'll be able to adapt to whatever we find out there." Kate's designs were revolutionary. Instead of building ships that could only do one job, she created ships that could be rebuilt and changed as needed. A cargo ship could become a passenger ship. A research vessel could become a mining platform. A colony ship could become a defensive fortress. The first test of Kate's designs came when the colony ship New Hope was launched toward a planet called Kepler 442b. The journey would take 2 years, but the ship carried 10,000 volunteers who were ready to start a new life among the stars. Captain Linda Foster commanded the New Hope. Linda was a former Navy officer who had always dreamed of exploring space. She had short red hair and green eyes that seemed to see everything. As her ship traveled through the darkness between stars, she studied everything they passed. "Look at this," Linda said to her science officer, Dr. Paul Green. "The alien said this system was empty, but I'm seeing signs of mineral deposits on 3 different asteroids." Paul looked at the data on his screen. "You're right, Captain. There's enough rare metals here to supply Earth for 100 years. The aliens completely missed it. This became a pattern. As human ships spread out from Earth, they discovered things the aliens had overlooked. They found new trade routes that were shorter than the ones the aliens used. They discovered planets that could support life but had been ignored by the galactic community. They even found ways to extract energy from stars that the aliens had never thought to try." The second wave of human expansion was even more successful. The colony ship Frontier Spirit reached Proxima Centauri b in record time. The colonists, led by Governor Mike Davis, immediately began building not just a settlement, but a full industrial complex. "The aliens build one thing at a time," Mike explained to his colonists. "We build everything at once. We build factories and farms and schools and hospitals all together. That's how we'll beat them." Back on Earth, Dr. Alex Carter finally had his breakthrough. He had figured out how to copy the alien faster-than-light technology, but he had made it better. Human ships could now travel twice as fast as alien ships and use half as much energy doing it. "The secret is chaos," Alex explained to President Santos during a video call. "The aliens make their technology perfect and predictable, but chaos is more efficient. Random patterns use less energy than organized ones." General Rodriguez was ready with his military plans. The Terran Defense Force now had ships in 15 different star systems. Each ship was designed to be independent, able to make decisions without waiting for orders from Earth. The aliens think in terms of central command, Sam explained to his officers. One leader makes decisions for everyone, but we're different. Every ship captain can think for themselves. Every colony can solve its own problems. That makes us stronger, not weaker. Engineer Kate Thompson had her own successes to report. Her modular ship designs were working perfectly. When the colonists on New Frontier discovered underground caves full of rare crystals, they were able to convert 3 of their cargo ships into mining vessels in just 2 weeks. Adaptability is our greatest weapon, Kate told her engineering teams. The aliens spent 1,000 years perfecting their technology. We'll spend 10 years making ours better. The most surprising discovery came from an unexpected source. Dr. Susan White, a psychologist who had been studying the mental health of the colonists, noticed something strange. The humans who were farthest from Earth were becoming more creative, more innovative, more willing to take risks. It's like being rejected by the aliens freed something inside us, Susan reported to Earth. We're not trying to fit into their mold anymore. We're becoming more human than we've ever been. 2 years after the rejection, humanity had spread across 30 star systems. Human colonies were thriving on worlds the aliens had never bothered to explore. Human ships were using trade routes that cut travel time in half. Human technology was advancing at a pace that shocked even the humans themselves. President Santos stood once again before the cameras, but this time she was smiling. "The aliens told us we weren't ready for the galaxy," she said. They were wrong. The galaxy wasn't ready for us. Behind her, through the window of the orbital station where she was speaking, dozens of human ships could be seen preparing for their next missions. Each ship carried the hopes of humanity and the determination to prove that being different was not a weakness but a strength. The rejection that was supposed to keep humanity small had instead made them unstoppable, and the galaxy was about to find out just how unstoppable humans could be. 3 years had passed since the aliens rejected humanity. Dr. Ben Parker was sitting in his office on the space station orbiting Earth when the strangest message of his life arrived. Ben was now the director of all human science projects in space. He had gray hair and tired eyes from staying up too many nights working on difficult problems. The message came through a secret channel that most humans didn't even know existed. It was from Dr. Zilthara, one of the crystal aliens called the Vorthan. Ben remembered her from the files about the Galactic Council meeting. She had been sitting in the corner during the rejection, and she had looked uncomfortable when the other alien spoke. "Dr. Parker," the message began, "I must warn you about something terrible happening in our galaxy. My people, the Vorthan, told your species that you were too primitive to join us. But now we are discovering that maybe we were wrong. Our perfect systems are breaking down and we don't know how to fix them." Ben read the message 3 times before he believed it. According to Zalthara, the Galactic Confederation was facing the worst crisis in their history. Their advanced technology was failing all across the galaxy. The first sign of trouble had appeared 6 months ago. The Zephyrian people, who could travel between dimensions, found that their dimensional gateways were shutting down without warning. These gateways were how goods and people moved quickly across the galaxy. Without them, many star systems were cut off from the rest of galactic civilization. Captain Jake Morrison was exploring the outer edge of human space when he received Dr. Parker's emergency message. Jake's ship, the Pioneer, had been mapping new star systems for possible human colonies. His crew had just discovered something that made Ben's message even more important. "Captain, you need to see this," said Lieutenant Amy Foster, the ship's intelligence officer. Amy was a smart young woman who had grown up on Mars. She was excellent at finding patterns in complicated information. Amy showed Jake a chart of all the alien distress signals they had been picking up. "Look at this pattern, sir. The aliens are having problems with things that our colonists solved months ago." Jake studied the chart. Amy was right. The Corellian mining worlds were reporting that their automated mining systems had stopped working when they encountered new types of minerals. But humans on New Frontier had faced the same problem and figured out how to fix it in just 2 weeks. "How is that possible?" Jake asked. "The aliens have technology that's thousands of years more advanced than ours. Dr. Sarah Kim, the ship's science officer, had an answer. Sarah was a young woman from Korea who specialized in studying alien technology. "Captain, I think their technology is too perfect. When something unexpected happens, their systems can't adapt." Back on Earth, Dr. Parker was receiving more secret messages from Xylothara. Each message painted a worse picture of the galactic crisis. The Aquilan people, who looked like giant fish and stored all of galactic history in their minds, were losing their memories. Their perfect memory system couldn't handle information that contradicted itself. When they tried to remember two different versions of the same historical event, their minds would freeze up like broken computers. The Corellian mining worlds were facing complete economic collapse. Their mining robots were designed to work perfectly, with known types of rocks and metals. But when the robots encountered new materials that didn't match their programming, they simply stopped working. The Corellians didn't know how to fix them because they had forgotten how to mine without robots. Even worse, the crisis was spreading. Other alien civilizations that depended on Confederation technology were also starting to have problems. Food. Shipments were delayed because transport ships couldn't adapt to unexpected space weather. Communication networks were failing because they couldn't process the kind of chaotic signals that natural space phenomena produced. Commander Ryan Walsh was now in charge of human military intelligence. He had been collecting information about the alien crisis from human scouts and traders throughout known space. What he discovered shocked him. "The aliens have a fundamental problem," Ryan reported to President Santos during a secure video call. "They've made their technology so advanced and so perfect that it can't handle anything unexpected. But space is full of unexpected things." "What do you mean?" the president asked. "Take our colony on Haven," Ryan explained. "When we first arrived, the atmosphere had chemicals in it that weren't supposed to be there according to our surveys. Our life support systems automatically adapted. But if the aliens had built that colony, their perfect systems would have failed, because they weren't designed to handle the unexpected chemicals." Dr. Parker received the most alarming message yet from Xylothara. "The council is meeting an emergency session," she wrote. "Some members are talking about abandoning entire star systems. Others want to shut down all advanced technology until we can figure out what's wrong. But if we do that, billions of beings will die because they depend on our technology to survive." The message included data that made Ben's hands shake as he read it. The Zephyrian dimensional network was collapsing faster than anyone had expected. The Aquilan memory systems were losing 1,000 years of galactic history every day. The Corellian economy was in complete freefall, but the most disturbing part of the message was what Xylothara wrote at the end. "We are discovering that the traits we called primitive in your species, your ability to improvise, your tolerance for chaos, your willingness to accept imperfect solutions, these may be exactly what the galaxy needs to survive." Captain Morrison made a decision that would change everything. He called together all the human colony leaders and ship captains for an emergency meeting. The meeting took place in space with everyone participating through hologram technology. "The aliens are in trouble," Jake told the assembled humans. "Their perfect technology is breaking down, and they don't know how to fix it. The question is, what do we do about it?" Governor Mike Davis from the Proxima Centauri colony spoke first. "They rejected us. They told us we weren't good enough for their galaxy. Why should we help them?" Captain Linda Foster from the New Frontier colony disagreed. "Because if their systems completely collapse, it will affect us too. We use some of their technology. We trade in their markets. If the galaxy falls apart, we all suffer." Dr. Kate Thompson, who was now designing ships for the outer colonies, had a different perspective. "Maybe this is our chance to show them what humans can really do, not by fighting them, but by solving problems they can't solve." The debate continued for hours. Some humans wanted revenge for the rejection. Others wanted to ignore the aliens completely, but slowly, a consensus began to form around a third option. Dr. Parker spoke for many when he said, "We're not doing this for the aliens. We're doing this because it's the right thing to do. When people are in trouble, you help them. That's what makes us human." President Santos made the final decision. We will offer assistance to any civilization that requests it. But we do it on our terms, with our methods, and with the understanding that they need to learn from us, not the other way around. The message went out across human space. Operation Galactic Assistance was beginning. Human engineers, scientists, and problem solvers would help fix the crisis that was tearing apart the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. But this time, the humans wouldn't be asking for permission to help. They would be showing the galaxy what the supposedly primitive species could do when they put their minds to it. Dr. Zylthera received a message from Dr. Parker that made her crystal body glow with hope. "We're coming to help," the message said. "But you need to understand something. We're not going to fix your technology to make it perfect again. We're going to fix it to make it work." For the first time in her long life, Zylthera began to think that maybe the Galactic Council had made a mistake 3 years ago. Maybe humanity wasn't too primitive for the galaxy. Maybe the galaxy had been too primitive for humanity. The emergency message from the Galactic Council reached every corner of known space. It was the first time in the Confederation's long history that they had asked for help from outside civilizations. The message was simple and desperate. "Any species with technological capability, please assist. The Galactic Confederation faces system-wide failures threatening billions of lives." President Maria Santos called an emergency meeting of Earth's leadership. The debate was fierce and emotional. Admiral Mike Johnson, who had replaced General Rodriguez as head of military operations, pounded his fist on the table. "They rejected us," Mike said, his face red with anger. "They called us primitive and told us to stay in our corner of space. Now they want our help. Let them solve their own problems." Dr. Alex Carter disagreed. He had spent 3 years developing faster-than-light technology and had seen how interconnected the galaxy really was. If their systems collapse completely, it will create chaos that reaches us too. Trade routes will disappear. Communication networks will fail. We can't isolate ourselves from a galactic disaster. The deciding voice came from an unexpected source. Captain Jake Morrison appeared on the main screen as a hologram, speaking from the bridge of his exploration ship far from Earth. "I've been out here watching this crisis develop," Jake said. "It's not just about the Confederation anymore. The breakdown is spreading to independent species who use their technology. Entire civilizations are facing extinction because their life support systems are failing." Jake's face was serious as he continued. 3 days ago, my crew responded to a distress call from a civilian transport ship. 200 families from a species called the Deltans were trapped when their ship's navigation system failed. They would have died in the vacuum of space if we hadn't helped them. "What's your point, Captain?" President Santos asked. "My point is that we can't let innocent people die because of politics. Those Deltan children didn't reject us from the council. They're just people trying to survive." Dr. Kate Thompson, who was attending the meeting from her engineering facility on Luna, spoke up through her video connection. "I've been analyzing the technical reports we've received. The problems they're facing aren't impossible to solve. They're just impossible to solve with their approach to technology." "Explain," the president said. Kate pulled up a holographic display showing alien ship designs. "Look at this Corellian mining vessel. It's incredibly advanced, but it can only mine specific types of minerals. When it encounters something unexpected, it shuts down. Our mining ships are less advanced, but they can adapt to mine anything." President Santos listened to all the arguments, then made her decision. "We will help, but we do it the human way. We don't just fix their technology and leave. We teach them how to think differently about problem solving." Operation Galactic Assistance began immediately. The first mission went to the Corellian mining worlds, where Dr. Thompson led a team of engineers to help restart their collapsed mining operations. When Kate's team arrived at the main Corellian facility, they found a scene of complete chaos. Thousands of mining robots sat motionless in the tunnels. The Corellian workers, who looked like tall, thin humans with 4 arms and gray skin, were standing around looking helpless. The Corellian supervisor, a being named Vextar, greeted Kate with obvious desperation. "Our systems encountered mineral formations that were not in our databases. The robots do not know how to proceed. so they have stopped all operations. Kate studied the situation for exactly 10 minutes before she started laughing. The Corellians looked confused and slightly offended. "I'm sorry," Kate said, wiping tears from her eyes. "It's just that this is such an easy fix. Your robots are too smart for their own good." "What do you mean?" Vexitar asked. "Your robots are trying to identify every mineral perfectly before they start mining. But you don't need perfect identification. You just need to know if something is valuable or not." Kate and her team spent the next week working alongside Corellian engineers. Instead of reprogramming the robots to handle every possible mineral type, they taught them to use simple tests to determine if something was worth mining. "Look," Kate explained to Vextar as she showed him the modified programming. "If the robot encounters something it doesn't recognize, it runs 3 basic tests. Is it harder than rock? Does it conduct electricity? Does it reflect light in unusual ways? If yes to any of those, it mines it and sorts it out later." "But that's so imprecise," Vextar said, sounding troubled. "Exactly," Kate replied with a grin. "Imprecise is what makes it work." Meanwhile, Dr. Lisa Bennett was leading a team to help the Aquilin memory keepers. The Aquilins lived on a water world where their massive libraries were stored in living memory banks that looked like giant coral reefs. The head librarian, a being called Flozinger, met Lisa at the edge of their memory reef. The Aquilin looked like a cross between a dolphin and an octopus, with smooth blue skin and large, intelligent eyes. "Our memory systems are corrupting," Flozinger explained, her voice creating bubbles in the water around them. "When we encounter contradictory information, our storage networks freeze. We are losing millennia of galactic history every day." Lisa studied the problem for 3 days before she understood what was happening. The Aquilin memory system was designed to store only perfect, verified information. When it encountered 2 different versions of the same historical event, it couldn't decide which one was correct, so it deleted both. "The solution is to embrace the contradictions," Lisa told Flozinger during a meeting in an underwater chamber. "Don't try to decide which version of history is correct. Store them both and let future generations figure it out." "But that would create chaos in our knowledge base," Flozinger protested. "No," Lisa said patiently. "It would create completeness. Real history is messy and contradictory. Perfect history is just propaganda." Lisa worked with Aquilin technicians to modify their memory storage systems. Instead of requiring perfect consistency, the new system tagged conflicting information and stored everything. It was messier than the old system, but it worked. The most dramatic rescue operation was led by Captain Rodriguez, who had been promoted to Admiral after General Sam Rodriguez retired. Rodriguez took a fleet of human ships to help repair a failing Zephyrian dimensional station. When Rodriguez arrived at the station, he found a crisis that should have been impossible. The Zephyrians existed partially in another dimension, and their technology allowed them to fold space to create shortcuts across the galaxy. But the station's dimensional generators were creating unstable rifts that threatened to tear apart local spacetime. The Zephyrian station commander, a being of shifting mist and light called Driftwind, was in a state of panic that humans could barely comprehend. "Our calculations are perfect," Driftwind communicated through electromagnetic pulses that human translators converted to words. "The dimensional equations are flawless, but the reality refuses to match our mathematics." Rodriguez studied the situation with his engineering team. The problem was that the Zephyrians had built their dimensional technology based on the assumption that space-time was perfectly uniform. But space wasn't uniform. It was full of gravitational fields, electromagnetic interference, and quantum fluctuations that their perfect equations couldn't account for. "Stop trying to make space behave like your equations," Rodriguez told Driftwind. "Make your equations behave like space." Rodriguez's team jury-rigged a solution using human engineering principles. Instead of trying to create perfect dimensional rifts, they created multiple small, imperfect rifts that could adjust to local conditions. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. "Your solution should not function according to our understanding of dimensional physics," Driftwind told Rodriguez after the repairs were complete. "That's exactly why it works," Rodriguez replied. You understand dimensional physics too well. Sometimes you need to be a little ignorant to find a solution. Word of human successes spread quickly through the galaxy. Species that had never heard of humanity before were requesting human assistance. The humans didn't just fix problems. They taught new ways of thinking about technology and problem solving. Dr. Ben Parker, now coordinating all human assistance operations, received daily reports of breakthrough after breakthrough. Human teams were solving problems that had stumped alien civilizations for centuries. The most important discovery came from Dr. Sarah Kim, who had been studying why human solutions worked when alien solutions failed. It's not that we're smarter than them, Sarah reported to Dr. Parker. It's that we're comfortable with imperfection. Their technology tries to eliminate all variables and control everything. Our technology assumes that things will go wrong and plans for it. Give me an example, Parker said. Take our life support systems, Sarah explained. Alien life support is designed to maintain perfect atmospheric conditions. If something goes wrong, the whole system fails. Our life support has backup systems, redundant components, and emergency protocols. It's not as efficient, but it's much more reliable. As human assistance teams worked across the galaxy, something unexpected began to happen. Alien species weren't just grateful for human help. They were eager to learn human methods. They wanted to understand how humans could solve problems that their advanced civilizations couldn't handle. The tide was turning. 3 years earlier, humans had been rejected as too primitive for galactic civilization. Now they were being seen as the galaxy's most effective problem solvers. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. High Counselor Zethkar of the Vorthan, the same being who had pronounced humanity unworthy, was preparing to make a journey that would have been unthinkable just months before. He was coming to Earth to ask for humanity's help, not just in solving the crisis, but in reimagining what galactic civilization could become. 6 months after the galaxy-wide rescue operations began, something happened that no human had ever expected to see. High Counselor Zethkar of the Vorthan arrived at Earth in a ship that gleamed like a crystal mountain. The same alien who had rejected humanity 3 years ago was now coming to ask for their help. President Maria Santos met him at the orbital station above Earth. She wore her best diplomatic uniform, but her expression was carefully neutral. Behind her stood the leaders who had built humanity's stellar civilization: Dr. Ben Parker, Admiral Rodriguez, Dr. Kate Thompson, and Captain Jake Morrison. Zethkar's crystal body caught the light from Earth's sun and threw rainbows across the teal meeting room walls. When he spoke, his voice carried a tone that humans had never heard from him before: humility. President Santos, Zethkar began, I come before you not as a superior speaking to primitives, but as a student hoping to learn from teachers. The Galactic Council was wrong about humanity. We were catastrophically wrong. President Santos kept her voice steady, though inside she felt a mixture of satisfaction and caution. What exactly are you asking for, High Counselor? We are asking humanity to help us rebuild galactic civilization, Zethkar replied. But not the way it was before. We want to build something new, something better, using the principles that have made your species so successful. Dr. Parker stepped forward. Before we discuss anything, we need to understand what you're really offering. Are you talking about membership in the existing confederation or something completely different? Zethkar's crystal form shifted, a sign of deep emotion among his people. The Confederation as it existed is dead, Dr. Parker. The crisis proved that our model of civilization was fundamentally flawed. We built a society based on perfection and specialization, but we eliminated the very traits that make civilizations adaptable and strong. Which traits? Asked Dr. Thompson. Redundancy, flexibility, the willingness to accept imperfect solutions, the ability to function when things go wrong. Zethkar paused and his crystal body dimmed slightly. The traits we called primitive in your species. President Santos exchanged glances with her advisors. This was not the conversation any of them had expected to have. What are you proposing? She asked. Admiral Rodriguez spoke up. Before we discuss proposals, I want to know about the other council members. Are they all in agreement with this new perspective? Zethkar made a sound like crystal chimes, which human translators interpreted as a sigh. The council, as you knew, it no longer exists. Some members have withdrawn from galactic affairs entirely. Others have requested to join regional alliances led by species they once considered inferior. The Aquilans have asked to merge their memory banks with the historical records of 3 different civilizations because they finally understand that single-source truth is not real truth. Dr. Parker was taking notes on his tablet. And the Zephyrians? The Zephyrians have abandoned their pursuit of perfect dimensional control. They are now using hybrid human Zephyrian technology that is, in their words, beautifully chaotic. It works better than anything they have built in 1,000 years. Captain Morrison, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke. High Counselor, 3 years ago you told us we weren't ready for the galaxy. What's changed? Zethkar's crystal body flared brighter. Everything, Captain Morrison. We have learned that the galaxy was not ready for humanity. We were the ones who needed to evolve. President Santos made a decision. Dr. Carter, please present our proposal. Dr. Alex Carter, who had been working on this project for months, stepped forward with a holographic projector. Images filled the air showing a new kind of space station design, trade routes that connected previously isolated systems, and technological systems that looked nothing like either human or alien designs. We call it the Adaptive Alliance, Dr. Carter explained. It's not based on any single species technology or philosophy. Instead, it combines the best ideas from every civilization, with built-in flexibility to incorporate new approaches as we discover them. The hologram showed how the new alliance would work. Instead of having one central government making decisions for everyone, there would be regional councils that could adapt to local conditions. Instead of standardized technology that worked the same way everywhere, there would be modular systems that could be modified for different needs. The key principle, Dr. Carter continued, is that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker. Human chaotic thinking, Forthan logical analysis, Aquilan historical memory, Zephyrian dimensional manipulation. When we combine these different approaches, we can solve problems that none of us could handle alone. Zethkar studied the holographic displays with obvious fascination. This is remarkable. But how do you prevent the kind of system failures we just experienced? Dr. Thompson stepped forward to answer. By planning for failure from the beginning. Every system has backups. Every process has alternatives. Every colony can function independently if it needs to. We assume things will go wrong and prepare for it. But doesn't that make everything less efficient? Zethkar asked. Less efficient, but more effective. Admiral Rodriguez replied. A perfect system that breaks down completely is less useful than an imperfect system that keeps working. President Santos brought the conversation back to the main point. High Counselor, this alliance would require fundamental changes in how your people think about technology and governance. Are you prepared for that? President Santos, 6 months ago, I would have said no. But I have seen what happens when civilizations become too rigid to adapt. The Corellian mining worlds now produce twice as much as they did before the crisis, using technology that their engineers call gloriously imperfect. The Aquilan memory banks contain more accurate historical information than ever before precisely because they now include contradictory accounts. Zethkar paused, his crystal form brightening. I have seen Zephyrian children playing with human toys that should not work according to dimensional physics, but do work because the children do not know they are impossible. I have watched Vorthon scientists learning to make intuitive leaps instead of only logical calculations. And what have you learned personally? Dr. Parker asked. I have learned that evolution never stops, Dr. Parker. For too long, my people believed we had reached the end of development, that we had achieved perfection. But perfection is death. Growth requires change, and change requires the willingness to be imperfect while you learn. The negotiations continued for 3 days. Representatives from dozens of alien civilizations arrived to participate in the discussions. Many were species that humans had never encountered before, but who had heard about human problem-solving abilities during the crisis. The breakthrough came when Ambassador Helen Clark, the same woman who had made humanity's original presentation to the Galactic Council, proposed a simple test. Instead of debating theory, let's try a practical experiment, she suggested. Let's build one joint colony using adaptive alliance principles. If it works, we expand the program. If it fails, we go back to the drawing board. The location chosen was a planet in neutral space that no single species claimed. The world had unusual properties that had made it impossible for any one civilization to colonize successfully. It had extreme weather, unusual gravity, and an atmosphere that changed composition seasonally. Captain Linda Foster was chosen to lead the colonial expedition. Her ship, now called the Unity, carried volunteers from 12 different species, including humans. The colonists would have to work together to survive in conditions that would challenge everyone's technology and methods. The colony was established in just 6 months, faster than any previous multi-species settlement. The key was that no one tried to impose a single solution on everyone else. Human engineers worked with Vorthan computers to design adaptive buildings. Aquilan memory keepers worked with human historians to create cultural preservation methods that honored everyone's traditions. Zephyrian dimensional specialists worked with human physicists to develop transportation systems that functioned in the planet's unusual space-time environment. The colony didn't just survive, it thrived. Within a year, it was producing innovations that impressed civilizations throughout the galaxy. 1 year after Zethkar's visit to Earth, the Adaptive Alliance was formally established. The signing ceremony took place on the new colony world, now called New Harmony. Representatives from 47 different civilizations signed the Alliance Charter. Ambassador Clark stood at the podium, looking out at the diverse crowd of beings who had come together to create something new. 3 years ago, humanity was rejected from the galactic community because we were considered too primitive. Today, we're not joining the galactic community. We're helping to create a new one. High Counselor Zethkar, now serving as one of many regional coordinators rather than a supreme leader, spoke next. The old Galactic Confederation believed that advancement meant eliminating chaos and achieving perfection. The Adaptive Alliance believes that advancement means learning to use chaos as a tool and finding strength in imperfection. President Santos had the final word. The aliens once told us that we weren't ready for the galaxy. They were right, in a way. We weren't ready for their galaxy, but they weren't ready for ours either. Now we're building a galaxy.